I have assembled the Ethical Retarders, a team of the most vile never-do-wells you will ever meet in competitive Pokemon. With Sneasler and Ursaluna at the helm, this grassy terrain team is pursuing the ultimate goal: winning their first ever Pokemon Draft League. To that end, they will be competing against 15 other teams over 8 weeks, with only one team being crowned the winner. This is week 7, and today the Ethical Retarders will face their most difficult challenge yet: the rank 1 team, the favourite to win the tournament, the Pyroars. This video is broken down into 3 parts. Here's part 1. There's only 4 or 5 19-pointers in the whole draft, and Dragapult is one of them. It's incredibly versatile. It can run special movesets, physical movesets, it can pivot, and it is emblematic of my opponent's strategy, which is be steady, be consistent, be powerful, right? Just win because you're stronger. And it's worked for my opponent thus far. It's 600 BST, it's a pseudo-legendary. Most of that is into its offenses, so it's actually quite frail, but it's really strong and really, really fast. It's the fastest thing around in almost all cases. There aren't many Pokemon that are this fast and still able to output damage. I mean, Deoxys speed is 1, but 142 is crazy. To go higher, you're going up to like Ninjask and Electrode, which don't do anything at all except be fast. And Dragapult has all the coverage it could possibly want, but it doesn't have physical Ghost-type stab. This is one downside. So this is the type chart that I'll be using. Up here, along the top, are all the different types, and we'll just add Pokemon one by one to the type chart and see how it looks. I think it's good. I mean, it's got, what's that, 8 resistances? That's a lot of resistances. But 5 weaknesses is a bit annoying. It's okay. The top part will get more interesting as we add the rest of the opponent's team, and we'll start to see where they have stacked up weaknesses that we can exploit, stacked up resistances that we don't want to thud into. For now, it's just Dragapult. The more interesting thing is down the bottom. In the green box, I will put Pokemon on my team which are weak to either of my opponent's stab. So in this case, Hatterene is weak to Ghost. Yellow means the best thing Dragapult can do with moves that are one of its types is hit neutrally, and red means I resist all of its options, all of its stab options. So as you can see, in Dragapult's case, it's pretty neutral. I can't resist it. I can't resist Dragon and Ghost at the same time, but it can't hit me super effectively very easily either. Then we can add in coverage and see what that does. And you can see coverage is pretty good for Dragapult. It can run water to hit Ursaluna and Arcanine, which is pretty great. It can run fire to hit Rillaboom and Orthworm, and then it can run these more niche options, electric to hit Mandibuzz, psychic to hit Sneasler. But it's going to be tricky for my opponent because they only get 4 move slots, so they have to make sacrifices somewhere. They really want Shadow Ball, they really want Draco Meteor. They probably want U-Turn or Will-O-Wisp. They can probably afford to bring 1 coverage move, so I can do some scouting and try to figure out what that is and then play around it. But I am going to have to be careful because Dragapult has so much variety, and I'm going to have to respect all of the possibilities going into the battle until I can gain more information. To complement Dragapult, they have Samurott Hisui, which is an otter, of course, and a pretty wonderful otter, too. I still kind of wish Samurott had stayed on 2 legs, like Oshawott and Dua. I think it would be cooler if it was like a biped. I know that people are like, can we stop making bipedal starter Pokemon? I think it's good if they're bipedal, if they start off bipedal. Like, I think Trico evolving into Sceptile is good. I think that Quaxley evolving into Quaquaval is good. I don't think that Litten evolving into Incineroar is good, because it changed the number of legs it stands on. And I don't really like Oshawott turning into Samurott either, but your mileage may vary. Maybe you're really into becoming quadrupedal with age. Certainly it hasn't seemed to harm Samurott Hisui, because its stats are fine. They're slightly better than regular Samurotts. It's slightly stronger. Ability's pretty good, sharpness, but the main draw, of course, is Ceaseless Edge. Ceaseless Edge is a crazy move, set spikes when it hits, and it usually hits 95% accuracy. That's what makes Hisui and Samurott good, but that makes it really, really good. Spikes as a move is really strong to begin with. Being able to do damage boosted by sharpness, no less. It's actually a respectable, like 97.5 base power with sharpness, I think. Is powerful. I mean, it's just really, really strong. It's consistent, right? You can bring it to a battle, even if your opponent counters it to the end of the earth. You can still run Focus Sash, you can still flick Ceaseless Edge, you can sack it, you can get a spike up. There's never going to be a battle where this thing is completely useless. And with this plus a dragapult to force me to switch, it's a nasty combo, it's a powerful combo. Looking at the type chart, the only real weakness that they have is Fairy. They have 2 Fairy weak Pokemon, which is not great for them, and I can exploit that. I have Comfey with Priority Draining Kiss, which will ruin Dragapult and Samurott. I have Hatterene, which is pretty good. The problem with Hatterene is that it's weak to Shadow Ball, and because it's a Psychic type, it doesn't resist Ceaseless Edge. And also, the other thing about Hatterene is that Samurott Hisui can set spikes up against Hatterene, because Ceaseless Edge is not a status move, so I can't Magic Bounce it, which is a rarity for hazard setters, and kind of a problem for me. It makes me less inclined to bring Hatterene, but more inclined to bring Comfey. I don't have any Dark Weak Pokemon, but I do have 2 Water Weak Pokemon, and I can't resist both of its stab options, which is probably all it needs. It just wants to click Ceaseless Edge and click Aqua Cutter, and that does pretty well into my team. It can run ground type coverage. It can run fighting type coverage, but it only really hits Orthworm. The ground type coverage looks pretty nice, though. You can hit Sneasler and Lantern, both of which are pretty annoying. Lantern in particular is pretty annoying for Samurott. It comes in, forces it out. But usually I think it's going to want to click Ceaseless Edge and get those spikes up for free. Their third Pokemon is another pseudo-legendary, another 600 BST monster. It's Metagross. They're a computer, and they are going to compute the odds of my defeat, which, if you apply Bayes' theorem and take the priors being that my opponent has won every single one of their battles and I've lost 2 of mine, I think my defeat looks quite likely, actually, according to Metagross's majillion megabytes of computing power. So I'm in a bit of trouble. Metagross's stats are good, but they have fallen off a bit because they're a bit kind of weirdly distributed. It's slightly too slow to be reliable as a sweeper. It's really strong, and that's good. The moves are good. With Psychic Fangs now, it's actually got reliable Psychic type stab, much improved over Zen Headbutt. It gets knockoff, it gets Bullet Punch, it gets Explosion, even nerfed Explosion is still good, and it gets Stealth Rock, so they can stack these hazards on me really effectively. Biggest problem is the typing. Steel Psychic isn't what it used to be. You still have a ton of resistances because you're a Steel type, so of course you do. You always look good on the type chart. But Metagross has 4 weaknesses: Fire, Ground, Ghost, and Dark. Until Gen 6, when they nerfed Steel, it only had 2, Fire and Ground, because Steel used to resist Ghost and Dark. Doesn't anymore, thank the heavens. It's an unfortunate casualty of the type rebalancing, but the type rebalancing was necessary. I mean, maybe they should have done more. Look at how many resistances Metagross has, and that's just from the Steel type. I don't really have a good way to deal Ghost type damage anyway. I do have Mandibuzz to deal Dark type damage, and Mandibuzz looks pretty nice into Metagross. Not weak to anything, absorbs Earthquakes if it tries to go for Earthquakes. I think Mandibuzz looks quite promising. The other promising thing is Orthworm. Orthworm is a physical wall, which is good because Metagross is a physical attacker. It resists Steel, resists Psychic, it's immune to Earthquake. Metagross can't do much to it, except click a fighting type move or a fire type move. Again, only got 2 move slots. I think that fighting and ground are probably the best bets. That does leave you vulnerable to Mandibuzz though, so maybe you want to run Ice Punch. Ice Punch is kind of weak, but I probably do want to switch Mandibuzz in on this, especially if I think it's going to Rocks or boost its attack. If it boosts its attack, I can Foul Play. If it Rocks, I can Defog. And rounding out my opponent's first 4 Pokemon, their core set of high point, strong Pokemon, is Keldeo. Keldeo is a wonderful pony. It's a bit magical, you might say. It is a member of the domestic horse genus Equus ferus, but it's a subspecies. It's distinct from these other ponies that you can see in the background. Now, there's some debate about whether Keldeo should actually be its own complete species. I mean, you can see if you compare it to the ponies up here, it does look quite different. It's got a big horn coming out of its head. But I think when you run the genetics, they are actually very, very similar, and they're perfectly capable of interbreeding and producing viable offspring. So, yeah, jury's still out on whether Keldeo should be given its own species, equus tica, or just be a subspecies. It's mostly a philosophical debate. For our purposes, we're just worried about how good Keldeo is for my opponent's team. Again, 600 BST. 600 BST is the powerful baseline for any Pokemon that you might want to use. Keldeo is strong, it's fast, but not quite as fast as it would like to be. There are lots of things that have more than 108 speed these days. And water fighting is good stab, it's good neutral stab, but Keldeo's coverage leaves a lot to be desired. It's got Air Slash and Icy Wind, and that's basically it. And both of those moves are low power, not 100% accurate. There's new Pokemon that are more optimized, more min-maxed, and just have better coverage. And it's weak to Fairy, again. You see they have 3 Fairy weaknesses now, and I'm immediately thinking, okay, I want to bring some Fairy-type offense, because hitting Dragapult, Samurott, and Keldeo sounds great. There's a few types at the top that they resist that I'm being a bit wary of. Steel looks useless, so does Water, not hitting anything resisted by a whole bunch. Electric looks pretty good though, so if I'm bringing Lantern, I can probably run Thunderbolt or Discharge, and then something to hit Dragapult, so Ice Beam or Dazzling Gleam would work, and in fact Dazzling Gleam would work quite nicely. Fire and Rock, neither of them look good, so maybe Arcanine Hisui is not great. Keldeo's offenses are nice. 3 super effective hits. Again, it hits my whole team neutrally. I'm a bit afraid of it because it can break through Ursaluna really well. I mean, it's a really good answer to Ursaluna. It can also hit Rillaboom hard with Sacred Sword or one of its coverage moves. I mean, it can use Air Slash and hit super effectively. And Rillaboom is my likely answer to Keldeo. Yeah, it looks scary, but I'm more worried about Dragapult at the moment. And I'm more worried about something crazy like a weakness policy agility metagross. I think Keldeo is kind of honest if you allow seeing a bunch of Calm Minds and sweeping through the opponent's team, to be honest. That's my opponent's first 4 Pokemon. These are all big threats. They're pretty scary. You can see why my opponent has done so well. There isn't like a massive theme to the team, you know, except I suppose that they're all pretty blue. I quite like that they're all blue. I don't know what that means. I don't know what a blue type team can do, but you see I'm not very blue. I've only got Lantern as my blue, and I guess Hatterene's head, and Orthworm's little blue Kite. But I don't know, like I don't think that a Kite can compete with having 4 actually blue Pokemon. We'll see. Maybe I need to consider their blueness more in the team builder. 5th, we have Clodsire. And Clodsire is a mud skipper. And look at how wonderful mud skippers are. Let's just take a moment to appreciate mud skippers. They are some of the greatest animals ever to exist. There's a common misconception about fish, which is that fish can't breathe air. They can't breathe oxygen from the air. They have to get it through their gills, through the water. And that's usually true. Now, of course, there's amphibians, and then there's mammals and birds, and we are descended from fish if you trace our grandparents back far enough. So fish evidently have the capacity to evolve air breathing. But actually, they've evolved air breathing dozens of times across many, many different lineages. It's not, it seems, that hard for a fish to evolve air breathing. And where it usually happens is in highly, highly eutrophic rivers in the tropics. So a body of water becomes eutrophic when there's so much algae and so much like life in the river that the life uses up all of the available oxygen in the water. So if you've ever seen a lake that's just covered in algae, like it's just green, you can't see the water surface, that's eutrophic. And what that does is anything else in the lake that needs to breathe oxygen dies, suffocates, because the oxygen is at saturation point. Any new oxygen that diffuses in through the air gets immediately taken up by the algae in the lake. And what happens in the tropics a lot of the time is because there's so much energy going through those tropical systems, because the sun's beaming down with heat, there's lots of rain, it's a wonderful place. Rivers and lakes will become patchily eutrophic. So there'll be some regions in a river that have no oxygen. You can't breathe through your gills because the algae have taken up all the oxygen. There's lots of different ways you can get around that as a fish. One way is to start swimming really, really fast. That'll use more oxygen, but if you can make it out of the dead zone and into a realm with lots of oxygen, you can breathe again. You can breathe the sigh of relief through your gills. Another option is to slow down completely, shut off your metabolism except for the absolutely necessary components required for life, and wait for the other creatures in the lake to die, because the algae will start suffocating too eventually. It'll become too much of it. You just last longer, and then eventually you win. You become the breather again. And the third option is start breathing the air, because there's lots of air above you, and that's got lots of oxygen in it. Your problem is just that you can't access it. So, fish evolve lungs. There's eels with lungs in the tropics. There's lots of fish that can get oxygen directly from the air through their skins. They can go up to the water surface, lay about on the water surface. If there's oxygen in the water, great, they can get it through their gills very efficiently. If there isn't, they can still get it from the air, less efficiently, but they can get it, and that's good. So it's no surprise then that there are mud skippers. These are fish who spend some of their time outside of the water. Often they'll have a coating of like mucus and water that will keep them wet because they're getting oxygen through their skin, so they need a medium for diffusion. And yeah, they can jump around in the muddy pools, in the bracken, in the shallows, and they just look really, really funny. And Clodsire is one of them. Clodsire has water absorb, so it can get water in through its skin. It's a ground type, but it's not afraid of the water. No, it loves the water. There are two things that set Clodsire apart from the other mud skippers. The first is its profound ignorance. Clodsire is the least aware thing you'll ever see. See those eyes? Those eyes up there? There is nothing going on behind them. There are no brain cells in that whole creature. It's just one big lump of contentment. The other thing that sets Clodsire apart is that it's pretty good in Pokemon, even though its BST kind of sucks. Now, it's only a 12-pointer, as you can see, which is lower than these other guys my opponent has drafted. But it's because defensive Pokemon tend to be worth fewer points, and Clodsire is definitely really good. It's another hazard setter for my opponent. It's a reliable wall. Its stats don't look great when you first look at them, but they're pretty well distributed. A lot of HP, amazing, and good special defense. So the special bulk is very respectable. Physical bulk's pretty bad, but you can compensate for that with EVs. Speed is terrible, but Clodsire doesn't mind. Clodsire, it just does what it wants to do. It doesn't need to listen to who is faster. And then the offenses are pretty bad too. But the abilities are amazing. Water Absorb and Unalloy in particular. I don't know if I've ever seen Poison Point Clodsire before. It's probably okay too, but Water Absorb and Unalloy are both so good. And then it has the moves it needs. It has Recover, it has Toxic, it has Hazards, as I said, and it can hit okay with Earthquake and Poison Jab. Not going to kill anything in one hit, but it can whittle things down, not die, stall out the opponent. The typing's pretty good. 3 weaknesses and 7 resistances is nice. It's a Fairy resistance, which my opponent kind of desperately needed. The other thing you'll notice about Clodsire is that it's immune, if it takes Water Absorb, to water and electric. This is something it shares with its sister species, Quagsire. Immune to water and electric, which means it shuts down my Lantern hard. My Lantern is kind of relying on being able to pivot, and usually I can do that with either Flip Turn or Volt Switch. Choose whichever one suits me best. But if they bring Clodsire, I can't use either. It'll shut down both. And then my Lantern is just a sitting duck. The only thing I have going for me as Lantern is Ice Beam. But even though it's super effective, the damage is going to be pitiful because Clodsire has so much special defense. Clodsire's typing is actually amazing against me. We're lucky this isn't a Nidoking, or something with actually strong attacking stats, because the combination of Poison and Ground looks very, very threatening. Orthworm does wall it, which is the saving grace, but it hits 6 of my 9 Pokemon for super effective damage with just its stab. If you add in coverage, it can hit everything. Next, we have Arboliva. Arboliva is a really interesting Pokemon. It's a new addition in Gen 9. It was one of the first Pokemon I tried team building with way back when SV came out, but I haven't explored it very much. It's interesting. I think Seed Sower is cool. It's another way to set grassy terrain that isn't Rillaboom, but I'd kind of rather have grassy Surge. And Harvest is pretty good. It makes Citrus Berry usable. Just keep harvesting those citrus berries and healing back up. Arboliva's stats are interesting. It's really slow. My opponent has a very wide range of speeds. They've got these fast breakers, fast offensive Pokemon, and these slow weirdos. Arboliva is strong, and the bulk is fine. 109 special defense is good. It's fine. The thing that makes Arboliva interesting in this battle is that my opponent has chosen it as their Tera Captain, and they have chosen the types Poison and Fairy, both of which are pretty good. Poison's pretty annoying for me because famously my team doesn't like Poison. Even after adding Arcanine and Squirm, my team still doesn't really like Poison. Poison types Wall Sneasler. They resist fighting and poison, and they are immune to the poisoning from Diaclaw and Poison Touch. It does become weak to Ursaluna though. Fairy, by contrast, is a reliable type, but I think Poison's better against my team in particular. Grass Normal's kind of weird. Grass Pokemon are better than their type chart makes them look. They have weaknesses to types that aren't that good, like Bug, and they resist both water and ground, which are key offensive types. Very, very common. I don't know. I find when I'm using Arboliva myself really unhappy with the fighting weakness, and I don't think that for this Pokemon, the Ghost immunity makes up for it. But Arboliva loves Tera. It loves Tera a lot. I think it loves Tera Poison, and that's what I'm worried about with this Pokemon. The coverage is not great, and it really hates Earthworm, because usually it can use Earth Power to get through Steel types, but Earthworm has Earth Eater and is immune. So it can't hit Earthworm even neutrally, even with coverage. There's nothing in its moveset that will let it hit Earthworm neutrally. Maybe that's not the end of the world, but Earthworm can body press it back. I think that Earthworm is quite a good counter to Arboliva. Leech Seed's annoying. It can wear down Earthworm. It's not like a clear-cut victory for Earthworm, because Earthworm doesn't have very good special defense. But it's in my favor. I'm a bit worried about this thing just because it's so weird and hard to predict, and I don't have that much experience with it. But we'll see. The other thing that they might bring as a Tera Captain is Colossal Agminina Calculus, the Steam Engine. It has the same BST as Arboliva. It also has a signature ability in Steam Engine. And I don't know, it's not that good. It's slow. Rockfire is really bad defensively. Quadruple weaknesses to water and ground is horrible, the exact opposite problem to Arboliva. But it gets Stealth Rock and Spikes, so it can't be totally useless. Steam Engine with Tera is really interesting, because you still get your speed maxed out, but you no longer die from the water type move that hits you. I think it's pretty good. Colossal's main claim to fame was Gmax Volcalith, or whatever it was called, in VGC in Gen 8. Didn't work in singles, and certainly won't work in Gen 9. But it also likes Tera. I think that both Colossal and Arboliva kind of need Tera to be worth using, so I expect my opponent will bring one of them, but not both. Which one? I'm not sure. Tera Poison Arboliva looks pretty annoying, but Tera Water Colossal also seems pretty annoying, although I do have Rillaboom to beat the Water variant, and Sneasler to beat the Fairy variant. A bit unclear. Defensively, it piles on to their fighting and ground weaknesses, which my opponent is not that happy about, because I think I can exploit them, especially ground. Ground looks pretty good. If they bring Arboliva, and I can force it to Terrestrialize into Fairy or Poison, it's no longer resistant to ground, and that's their only ground resist. So I'm quite liking the thought of Ursaluna, but I say that every video. I always love the thought of Ursaluna. It's the same in this one. You can look at their normal resistances. While Dragapult doesn't resist Blood Moon because of Mind's Eye, and the other two are weak to ground. It's really, really good offensively. Hits everything neutrally, hits a bunch of guys super effectively, and Colossal has pretty good coverage to deal with the rest. It's not perfect. Yeah, I think that Colossal and Arboliva are they're very, very different Pokemon, but I'm similarly afraid of them. They both are a bit unpredictable, they both have Tera, they're both these slow weirdos. Yeah, whichever one my opponent brings, if they bring one, which I think they will, I'll have to watch out for it. There's just a lot that can happen, and I have to be very careful clicking a water type move against it, because if I mess up, I click Flip Turn with Lantern, they switch this in, its speed gets quadrupled, I could get swept. I don't know exactly how it's going to do enough damage to sweep through me. It's not that strong. It only has 80 in its offenses, which is a bit pitiful. But you never know. It does have body press, and it can run like a weird iron defense thing. Yeah, it's confusing, Colossal. It's confusing. The penultimate Pokemon is Thundurus. Famously, Wolfie VGC will tell you how Thundurus got 4 different mechanics in the game nerfed. Prankster, Thunderwave, Swagger, and probably something else. All because it was so overbearing in VGC. And it's not that surprising. It's an offensive Pokemon. You can tell by the stats that it wants to go fast and hit hard. It can run physical or special, but it prefers special. The coverage is really nice. Psychic and Grass Knot and Focus Blast are pretty good. Grass Knot's really annoying because it hits my Ursaluna super effectively for 1,000 damage, because Ursaluna's really heavy. This thing looks pretty strong. Prankster's better in doubles. Defiant is only good for physical sets, but it is good for physical sets. Yeah, I'm quite worried about this. If it just clicks Nasty Plot, it's a little hard for me to mount a counter attack if you look at my options. It is slower than Sneasler, which is nice, but Sneasler can't one-shot it. It resists grass, it's immune to ground, it outspeeds Ursaluna and one-shots it with Grass Knot. I do have Arcanine Hisui, which can kill it, but it can take the role on Focus Blast and maybe just kill my Arcanine. So this thing, I know it's only, 13 points. I'm more scared of it than I am of Keldeo or Metagross. I guess I'm more scared of it than Samurott too, but that's not because I think it's better than Samurott, it's just because Samurott is more of a supporter, and this thing could just tear through my entire team if I let it. Electric Flying is good. We know Electric Flying is good. It does give them another ice weakness. They have a lot of ice weaknesses now. Unfortunately, I can't capitalize on it very well. The only ice-type move I even have on my entire team list is Ice Beam from Lantern. Lantern's not that strong. However, I do think Lantern is going to be my best answer to Thundurus. With Volt Absorb, it's immune to electric, and it resists flying. And because it's light, Grass Knot won't do super effective damage. So if I give Lantern an Assault Vest, it should be able to stand up to Thundurus. This isn't the Therian form, it doesn't get Volt Absorb itself, so I can come in and start hitting it with neutral skulls, neutral discharges, and wear it down. Their bug resistances look good. Last week I was thinking, oh, I can U-turn all over the place. This week I'm thinking, oh, U-turn's like not going to do anything. 4 times resisted by Clodsire and Colossal, resisted by everything else. I'm not so happy about Bug, but I'm happy about Ice. Ice looks like a strong type that I wish I could use more. And then look at that coverage. It has 7 coverage types. It's hitting for a full half of the available types, and it can hit my entire team. With the caveat that it's better off clicking a neutral move like Psychic than Lantern, because Super Effective Grass Knot is still on the 80 base power. Thundurus, not as strong as Dragapult, but really good against my team, I think. Massive concern. And finally, we have Diancie. All I'm going to say is that Cubey did nothing wrong. Moving on. Diancie is a rock fairy type Pokemon with comical stats. It's like if you took a classic mythical, you took a Celebi, you took a Mew with 100 and everything, you yoinked 50 from the HP and the speed, and you chucked that onto the defenses, you get a Diancie. It kind of balances out though, right? Like if you lose 50 HP but gain 50 in your defenses, you kind of end up back where you started. Like you're about as bulky as you would be if you just had 100, 100, 100, and now your speed is 50, so maybe it's just worse than if you had 100 and everything. The bulk is nice though, and with HP EVs it does get pretty tanky. It was a clever pick because Diancie is cripplingly weak to steel, it's 4 times weak to steel. But if we look at their team, they have currently got no steel weaknesses and 4 resistances. So if Diancie faces a steel type, well, it's going to have a lot of allies to switch into. It's also got some weird things it can do. It's got Trick Room. I can't tell if my opponent actually likes Trick Room. They do have the slowness to support it. Clodsire, Arboliva, and Colossal are all slow. Metagross is kind of slow. If you gave it min speed EVs, it would get pretty slow. And then Diamond Storm is really strong. Meteor Beam Power Herb is is strong. Body press with that base defense is strong. It seems good. I keep thinking it has magic bounce. I'm like, oh no, they're going to magic bounce my hazards from Arcanine. But no, it doesn't. That was the Mega Form, and the Mega Form is not available. Most of my experience dealing with rock fairies is from Pokemon Go, actually. Carbink has been pretty good in Pokemon Go the last few seasons. It's a rock fairy type. It dies to things like Skarmory. I don't know how to feel about it. It has 4 weaknesses, and they're all pretty annoying. The Dragon immunity is good. Dark resistance, flying resistance. Yeah, I feel like I don't like it. I don't know, I don't like the typing. And even though I said their steel weakness is well covered, now I can bring a steel type move and like potentially do something with it. Whereas before there was just no point. So it just kind of like unconstrained me a little bit. And then the extra ground weakness seems really bad for them. I want to be clicking Blood Moons, I want to be clicking Earth Powers. Thunderous is going to be the trouble, but it can't switch into a Blood Moon. So it's going to have to predict my Earth Power if it wants to come in. It can come in after I kill something and force me out. Guaranteed though, because it's faster and one-shots me. It's okay. You'll notice that like Arcanine Hisui's having a bit of a bad time of it. It dies to Samurott, it dies to Keldeo, it dies to Earth Power from Arboliva, it dies to ground type moves from Colossal, and it dies to Diancie. So yeah, I'm really not feeling Arcanine Hisui. And if you look at what Arcanine Hisui is hitting, it's not that great. They've got so many fire resistances. Rock's not that good. So I'm not that happy about Arcanine. Looking through my other Pokemon, Grass doesn't look that enticing. Fairy looks pretty good. They have managed to get more Fairy resistances, but 3 of their big threats are weak to Fairy. So Comfey is looking strong. Sneasler is weird. It beats Arboliva until Arboliva Terras, and then it doesn't anymore. It beats Samurott, but who cares? It beats Colossal, but who cares? Most of their really strong threats are neutral or resisted. It doesn't look like it's going to be an easy game to get a Sneasler sweep, but Ursaluna Blood Moon looks amazing as always. Diancie's coverage is good. It can do everything it wants to, except Rillaboom. But Rillaboom forces it out anyway, because it's faster and we'll just kill it with Woodhammer. So that's the team in its entirety. The last thing to do before we get into my team building is have a look at the speed tiers. So here's my team in speed. Since I dropped Ogerpon, I'm looking pretty slow. I am really relying on Sneasler to be the fastest thing. I do have 3 good priority users though, in Comfey, Arcanine, and Rillaboom, and Ursaluna gets Vacuum Wave as well. So I do have speed control options. Let's see how their team stacks up. So Clodsire is the slowest, slower even than Hatterene, and kind of nice because they actually beat each other. I can Psyshock Clodsire, it can Sludge Bomb me, so I'm kind of glad to outspeed Clodsire with Hatterene. Next they have their 2 Tera Captains and Diancie, all pretty slow, all slower than Blood Moon. I don't really want to invest in my Blood Moon speed though, so maybe they will outspeed me. I can imagine them going timid Arboliva and trying to push it up to the faster speeds to overtake Blood Moon. Not all the way like timid max, but just enough to go to like 150, 160. Maybe they want to go as high as like 171 to outspeed my Lantern by 1 point if I don't invest in speed. There's some potential for my opponent there, but I think it's harder for me to like predict that and then try to speed creep them. So I'll probably let them do it. Then we have Metagross, dead in the middle. It is slower than Mandibuzz, which is good and bad. It's good for me because I can foul play it, and it hates being foul played because its attack stat's really high, and foul play uses its attack stat, and it's weak to it. It's bad because I can't pivot out. It's bad because I can't take a hit and then pivot out. If I click U-turn, whatever, I'm going to go first, switch out, and then they'll hit me. So I can't like slow pivot on their Metagross. But I think usually they'll want to switch out to not get foul played, and then if I U-turn, I do have the initiative because they used their like hard switch move. We have Samurott speed tying with Rillaboom. This is probably not too relevant because Grassy Glide will kill it if I want to kill it. There's not really much reason for me to click Woodhammer when I can click Grassy Glide. Maybe it's important for U-turn, like if U-turn kills, then it's 50-50 whether I just kill or get them to their sash, or they hit me, get a spike up, and then I do it. I don't think there's that much of a difference. I think they're probably running sash or choice scarf anyway, so it probably doesn't matter too much. But it's interesting, and I'll consider it. Then we have their fast guys, Keldeo and Thunderous. I'm glad they're slower than Sneasler, but they both look pretty scary. Keldeo I can answer with Comfey and Rillaboom, which are both faster than it because they have priority moves, even though they're slower by speed stat. Thunderous, though. Thunderous looks like a problem. I can't kill it in one hit with Sneasler, so I'm going to have to rely on my slower Pokemon to sponge a hit, but I can't rely on Ursaluna to do that. I can't really rely on Arcanine to do that. So it's up to Lantern, but Lantern doesn't really do enough damage. I think Thunderous is going to be a major problem. And then, of course, King of the World, Dragapult. Crazy 421 maximum speed stat, significantly higher than anything else on the field. It is faster without speed investment than Arcanine and Rillaboom and Samurott are at Jolly Max. It's so quick. I can outspeed it with Unburden, Sneasler. I go to, 744? And 744 is higher than 421. If they ran Choice Scarf on the Dragapult, they would only go up to... If they ran Choice Scarf on the Dragapult, they would only go to 631. Not 2, because it rounds down, so 631 would be what they go to. My 2x speed would beat them. So with Unburden, I am the fastest thing around, and I can hit Dragapult with the Throat Chop. But I don't know, they have a lot of ways to stop my Unburden sweep. They have priority of their own, Aquajet from Samurott. They have Pokemon that can take a hit, like Keldeo can take a hit, Metagross can take a hit. They have Terra Poison Arboliva, which sponges me. And they have Clodsire, which, although its physical defense is bad, does resist everything and can invest in physical bulk. It's really complicated. This isn't one where I can easily evaluate who's better from this stage of the game, but I have to respect my opponent's team building. They are very, very consistent. It's hard to find glaring flaws that I can exploit. So that's it. That's my opponent's team. The Pyroars, the #1, rank 1, undefeated, so far champion of this league. Do you guys think I can overcome them? Do you think that with my prep and team building I can defeat this superior opponent? Find out in part 2, where we go over my team building process. Here we are in the team builder. I won't spend too much time here because I didn't spend too much time here over the week, really. This was week after my birthday. I was days away from starting my master's degree and pretty stressed out about it. I had a lot of work to do. I was meeting people, going places. So I kind of thought I'll just play it safe. I'll bring a team of consistent Pokemon that I know how to work with and not do anything too funky. So my thought process was, I know I've just put Arcanine and Orthworm on the team, but they didn't really work out for me last week. I don't really know how to use them as well as these guys, so I'm just not going to bring them. I won't bring them, I won't worry about them. They didn't look that good in the type chart anyway, so I ditched both of them. And then the only real question was, which fairy did I want? Comfey or Hatterene? And I chose Comfey for 2 reasons. First, because I feel like I need speed control. They have Dragapult, they have Pokemon like Dragapult and Thunderous that I really want to be faster than. And the second reason was that Hatterene's magic bouncing is not going to be that useful against their team, because Samurott Hisui doesn't care about magic bounce. It'll just put spikes up anyway. So yeah, I thought let's give Comfey one last time in the sun, shall we? See if it can do anything. I wouldn't say it's been disappointing. It's more like I haven't felt like I've known how to use it to its fullest potential. I do feel like it's a Pokemon that can be good. I don't think it's like a waste of space, useless thing. It's just hard to use because it is kind of weak without investment. It's kind of frail. It's not fast enough, but it has priority, so it is fast enough. Its coverage is bad. It's a weird Pokemon, but I'm bringing it this week. As for my sets, well, we can start with Ursaluna up here. This is very similar to the set I bought last week. It's special attack, modest, and special defense invested. Life Orb just to hit hard. We can see if I bring up the calc against Dragapult, this thing is OHKOing Dragapult with Earth Power more often than not. It's OHKOing Metagross easily with Earth Power. It is 2-hitting Clodsire with Earth Power or Blood Moon, which is good. Clodsire is a special wall, so 2-hitting it is really good. And it's one-shotting Arboliva occasionally with Blood Moon. If Arboliva Tera poisons, it now one-shots it with Earth Power. That's nice. And yeah, I one-shot Thunderous. I just thought I really like the damage I can put out. Who needs Moonblast? Moonblast looks pretty useless against the team. They've got fairy weaknesses, but I'll just kill them with Blood Moon. I thought, who cares? I don't need Moonblast. And I'll bring Vacuum Wave so that I can chip down Samurott and Arboliva and Colossal, and really anything that drops to low health. I can even hit Dragapult with it because of Mind's Eye. My next decision was Lantern. Lantern, I wanted to be my special check. I wanted it to be able to beat Thunderous. I felt like I didn't have a good answer to Thunderous. I made a really dodgy decision though. I kind of regretted this. I wanted Volt Absorb and Water Absorb. Volt Absorb for Thunderous, Water Absorb for Keldeo. 2 of their strong special attackers. They both are good, but I was like, I want Lantern to be my Thunderous answer. So why didn't I bring Volt Absorb? Well, I thought I could bluff it. I thought if I switch Lantern into Thunderous, there's no way they're brave enough to click a electric type move until they've tried Keldeo, found out that I'm Water Absorb, and then not being able to get through Lantern with Keldeo. It was a genuine decision. I could have gone either way. You'll see in the battle how it ended up working out for me. Next Pokemon was Mandibuzz. This guy was going to be my physical wall. Mostly I wanted to be able to defeat Metagross. I was tossing up between Foul Play and Knockoff. The reason I ended up going with Knockoff is because they've got some Pokemon that are really annoying with leftovers. Arboliva and Clodsire can just never die with those moves. If I can knock them off, that gets me a lot closer to making some real progress against their team. I also liked being able to knock off Dragapult's choice specs. And Foul Play was really only for Metagross. It is better against Metagross, granted, but I thought Knockoff had more general utility, and I didn't think Metagross would be staying in anyway, because I'm so physically bulky. I didn't think it could break through me. And yeah, if we look at Mandibuzz in the calc against Metagross, you can see Knockoff is still doing 30 to 38%, and Metagross is doing nothing back. I'm immune to Psychic Fangs, I'm immune to Earthquake, Bullet Punch is doing nothing. If it runs Thunder Punch, which it might, it still only does 28 to 33, which is not nearly enough to actually break through me. So I was feeling pretty good about Mandibuzz. Oh, I should show you Lantern's calcs too. So if I bring up Lantern versus Thunderous, you can see Lantern does wall Thunderous pretty well. None of these moves are doing much of anything. I can two-shot it with Ice Beam in return. Happy days. It's also pretty good against Keldeo. Keldeo can't really hurt it with anything either, and I can two-shot Keldeo with Discharge. So I thought, okay, cool, Lantern is a good special wall against those two threats. Dragapult's a bit of a problem. I can take a Draco Meteor. You can see it does 39 to 46. So I can take it. I can take it fine, but not repeatedly. If I have to bring Lantern into a Draco Meteor, they can switch out. The next time I have to bring it in, I will die to the second one. If I could have one wish from the Pokemon Genies, I would wish for Lantern to get Recover. I really like Lantern. It's such a charming fish. It just can't heal. It just gets worn down. If it had Recover, you can say there's about like half of the defensive Pokemon with no healing. Cue the Stunfisk Reddit. I gave the Regis a signature move which heals them. Comments. If someone made like Regi Heal, the signature move, and gave it to the 4 Regi Pokemon, I guess 6. Regieleki doesn't really need it. Regidrago would like that too. I would give it to Lantern too, because Lantern's basically a Regi. It's kind of like Regifish. Maybe they should like unveil Lantern's true form Regifish and give it a healing move. That's my wish for the Pokemon Genie. Anyway, my 4th and 5th Pokemon are Sneasler and Rillaboom. I thought, let's try the Unburdened Swords Dance thing. The reason I thought that is because of Throat Chop. If I look at +2 Sneasler, you can't see it, but this is +2 Sneasler, and we bring up some calcs. You can see I'm one-shotting Dragapult with Throat Chop. I one-shot Samurott with Close Combat. I don't quite one-shot Metagross with Throat Chop. It's a roll to kill with close combat. It's like 50-50. This is a 252 HP Metagross. If they're less bulky, I can kill them with close combat reliably. I felt like that was worth it. I think I can get some chip onto Metagross. One-shot Keldeo. Can't break through Clodsire. Clodsire is the problem. I need a way to kill this. It'll kill me back with Earthquake. If I can get through Clodsire, I'm fine. The other problem is Arboliva, and I don't think I respected this enough, the Tera Poison. I think that I was looking at the normal Arboliva and thinking, oh my god, like I kill it, look at this. Diaclawed is 135, Close Combat is 202%, easily destroyed. Once they Tera though, it's another story. I still two-shot them with Close Combat, but it's not enough because they can Strength Sap. And they can just keep Strength Sapping. They heal back to full, my attack goes down, eventually I'm doing 0 damage. I just didn't respect it enough at the time. I should have thought more about Tera Poison. If I can get in on something like a Diancie or a debuffed Dragapult, it's click Draco Meteor, it's lost its special attack, then I think I can find a turn to click Sword Stance. So I thought, let's just try it. This is the number 1 opponent. I'm not favoured to win. I may as well roll the dice, give it a shot, see if I can get some cheese sweep going. So I brought Sneasler, and then I brought a very, very standard Rillaboom. Grassy, Glide, U-Turn, Hyper Power, Knockoff. It's basically my exact set from last week, I think. It's nice. There's nothing special. And then finally, Comfey. Draining Kiss and Giga Drain with Choice Specs. I intend to mostly be clicking Specs Draining Kiss. And then Giga Drain was just for Diancie, mostly. Because they're 2 water types, Keldeo and Samurott are weak to Fairy. Anyway, the Draining Kiss looks like an easy click. I can pivot with U-Turn. Knockoff is going to do negative damage because my attack stat is so low and I haven't invested in it. But maybe knocking off their item becomes important. If we look at the calcs for Comfey, you can see we're not quite strong enough. 25% chance to Oko Dragapult. That's not ideal. The other calcs for Comfey, I kill Samurott sometimes, but not that often. I kill Keldeo never without chip. And I mean, look at my pathetic damage against Clodsire, 15 to 18. This is why I want Knockoff, because Clodsire just switches in for free, and I may as well at least get rid of its leftovers or boots. Terrible against Colossal, bad against Metagross. In hindsight, I probably should have bought Hatterene. At least Hatterene can click Psychic, or even click Trick Room, and then let my Ursaluna go crazy. Comfey, yeah, it beats these 3 Pokemon, kind of. I mean, it does a lot of damage to them, and it heals back any damage they can do to it. But the problem is, my opponent's just going to switch into the ones that it hard loses to. I'm going to have to click U-Turn. Comfey felt like the choice at the time. I'm not sold that it was the choice in hindsight, but I can't really remember how the battle went, because it's been a few weeks. So I might just be totally besmirching Comfey's name for no reason, and actually Comfey was the MVP. It has been a while. We'll watch it together, and we'll find out whether I've been spreading traitorous lies about the wonderful Comfey, or whether I've been rightfully critical of Comfey for its failings as a person and as a Pokemon. Henry's dead. You can tell because I sound like Caitlin. That's how you know for certain who's alive and who's dead. Caitlin's fine. Don't go to the police. You should go to the police about Henry's death, but don't give them too much information because we don't want him to be found. Him. Anyway, I'm here to talk about Pokemon. I'm in the editor's room. Henry's obviously dead, but we're okay with that. Well, I'm not. I'm very broken up, as you can tell. But I'm pressing on with my job, his job, anyway, despite the ongoing psychological harm that I have inflicted upon me. I mean, he has inflicted upon me with his own death. So, I don't have a camera, which is not suspicious. I wouldn't worry about that. Because I'm Caitlin, right? Here are the overall rankings of how I would rate the Pokemon in this video. I didn't do these before the battle. For this week and the next week, week 7. I mean, Henry didn't do this before the battle. For week 7 and week 8, he didn't do like his predictions, which he normally liked to do back when he was alive. So these are like what I think he would have predicted, given that the battle's already happened. So take them with a grain of salt. I won't dwell on them too long because they're kind of arbitrary. So in bad, we have Colossal. We don't like it. Then we have Diancie. It kind of matches up badly against Henry's team. We have Arboliva and Clodsire. They're both poison types, because Arboliva is going to turn into a poison type immediately. Maybe Arboliva is a fairy type, but I'm leaning towards poison because my team hates poison so much. And they're both pretty good. They're both Wall Sneasler. They're both annoying, defensive Pokemon, but they're both slow, and there's ways around them. Best way being Ursaluna, Blood Moon. Then we have Metagross and Keldeo. These are both kind of volatile, strong sweepers, but they're not as worrying as the bigger threats. For example, Thundurus. Thundurus is just really hard for my team to deal with. It's faster than almost everything. I don't have very good moves to hit it with. It one-shots Ursaluna. It's really annoying. And then finally, the biggest threats, I think, are Dragapult and Samurott Hisui. No surprises from my opponent. They brought basically their 6 strongest Pokemon. I was glad to see no Clodsire, because I thought Clodsire looked really annoying. It's just an intimidating lineup of Pokemon to see. As always, the first question I had to ask myself was, who do I lead? And I kind of messed up. I thought to myself, why don't I lead Ursaluna Blood Moon and click Blood Moon? Because it's worked pretty well in the past, and I kind of thought they'd lead Dragapult. Dragapult is a good lead. I thought, that would be fine. I'll lead Ursaluna, I'll click Blood Moon. Sure, they can U-turn out, that's fine, but I just wanted to get that big upfront damage. Problem is, I was tunnel visioned on Dragapult, because I'm used to seeing Dragapult as like a lead. I was like, surely they'll lead Dragapult. But of course they didn't lead Dragapult. Why would they lead Dragapult? They led Samurott Hisui. Because of course they did. Because Samurott Hisui is even more of a dedicated lead than Dragapult is. I should have known that. I mean, it was just a failing on my part. It was just a misstep. I should have seen that Samurott Hisui was obvious and led with Rillaboom, I guess? I don't know. I didn't really give myself a very good lead for this game. I end up in Ursaluna against Samurott. I'm not bulk invested, so I think that Aqua Cutter will just kill me. But I thought, they're clicking Ceaseless Edge. Whenever you have a Samurott in and you can click Ceaseless Edge, you're clicking it. Now, I'm not happy about the fact that they're going to click Ceaseless Edge, because I hate the idea of spikes going up. I will have to get my Mandabuzzin and defog them at some point, but I'll take a kill for it. I'm going to click Blood Moon, they're going to click Ceaseless Edge, and I'll try to spike for a kill. If they just click Aqua Cutter, I do lose Ursaluna for nothing, but I was pretty confident that they would click Ceaseless Edge. It's such a safer play. It's just free power for them. So, what did they do? They clicked Ceaseless Edge, and I clicked Blood Moon, and I thought, okay, I'm happy with that trade. I'll take it, I win. They had a Focus Sash, which I knew was a possibility. I was still a bit disappointed. I was hoping it would be like Scarf or Boots. But Focus Sash is a common item on Samurott, so there you go. And then I was in this spot, and I thought, I could attack it with Vacuum Wave and kill it. And I don't think Aqua Jet kills me. Aqua Cutter would kill me. Razor Shell would kill me. But Aqua Jet, not strong enough. So I think Vacuum Wave kills. And then I thought, okay, but they must know that, right? And they probably want to preserve the sack, so they'll probably switch out to something that can take a Vacuum Wave just fine, which is most of their Pokemon. So I was expecting them to switch, and I thought, I'm going to double switch. I thought I'm going to have to make some crazy reads if I'm going to win this game. Thundurus is a pretty safe switch to them. Really safe switch, actually. Because I can't Blood Moon. So, it's immune to Earth Power, it resists Hyper Voice, I can't Blood Moon it on this turn, so they're probably free to come in, and then they can click Grass Knot next turn and kill my Ursaluna. And so I kind of talked myself into this belief that my opponent was going to send in Thundurus, and so I double switched. And I was going to go to Lantern, and then I was like, oh, but what if they don't go Thundurus? But then I thought, but what happens if they don't switch? What happens if they just go for another Ceaseless Edge? Like, sack the Samurott, go for another Ceaseless Edge. If I go to Lantern then, I'm in trouble, because Lantern will get two-shot by Ceaseless Edge. So, even though I think they're going to go to Thundurus, I'm in kind of trouble if I go to Lantern. Like, am I that confident? So I thought, no, I'm not that confident. Maybe I should just Vacuum Wave. I decided in the end to switch to mandibles. I thought it was safer than Lantern. Doesn't get punished by Samurott so badly. If they go Thunderous, I can then go Lantern, and it works out. I didn't want to stay in though. I felt like it was too easy for me to just die, take more damage from Aquajet. Wasn't excited about it. So I switched to Mandibuzz, and they stay in. And they hit me with an Aqua Cutter. If I'd vacuum waved, I would have just killed, but I didn't. I stay in, they use a second Aqua Cutter, and I kill them with U-turn. And this was my first kind of misplay of the game. I should have just vacuum waved. I could have saved 72% of my Mandibuzz's health if I just vacuum waved. I did think that a switch was coming though. I'm not like too disappointed in my past self for the play. It was quite a complex turn. I think that the lead was worse from me, but this was like I should have done it differently. It's just a bit hard to figure out exactly what the best move was. If anyone in the comments has like a take on what the optimal play on this sequence of turns, like when we go from this lead down to here, what do you do on this turn? Turn 2, 1% Samurott, 58% Ursaluna. Do you switch to someone? Do you predict something? Do you just vacuum wave? Was I overthinking it? If you have a take, let me know. This is exactly the kind of moment that will make you a better Pokemon player if you can figure it out and figure out why the best move is the best. Anyway, jump ahead. I've killed this Samurott. I think I'm going to go into Rillaboom, get my grassy terrain up. Whatever I go into, they'll be able to counter with their own Pokemon, because I U-turned first, so I go in first, then them. And I thought, let me just get my grassy terrain up. I want it. And then they sent in Arboliva, and I was like, uh-oh, that's annoying. That actually likes the grassy terrain being up for itself. And here I thought, the reason that they send Arboliva in against Rillaboom is because they want to Tera Poison. Otherwise my U-turn, if they don't Tera, my U-turn will just like two-shot it. But with Tera, resist U-turn, it's pretty good into Rillaboom. So I thought, they're definitely terrestrializing. There's a shot it's Fairy that also resists my U-turn, but I've been most scared of Tera Poison the entire time, and I'm still most scared of that. I U-turn out. I think I can't stay in, they're going to hit me with Terra Blast, or even like a neutral, Alluring Voice, and they're going to resist my grass type moves. They do Terra, I was right. I U-turn, and I switch into Lantern. Now, it might seem strange to switch into a water type, but I knew they would click Terra Blast or Alluring Voice. They weren't clicking a grass type move into my Rillaboom, and my Lantern is really especially bulky. So I thought, this is safe. I'll go into Lantern, and then next turn, I can bait them into clicking a grass type move and switch again, go back into my Rillaboom. This time it's chipped. I know that it's Tera Poison. I don't have to play the guessing game, and I can just click high horsepower into it. And that's what happens. I flip turn on the Arboliva, bring my Rillaboom back in, but you'll notice the problem happening here. And they Earth Power, so it was a good play by me. Like, this is all fine, but I'm still worse. I'm worse because all of the chip damage I've managed to do to Arboliva is just healed off. Leftovers plus grassy terrain is just healing it too much. Meanwhile, with their spike, my Rillaboom's at 71%, my Lantern's at 79%, my Mandibuzz is almost dead because of the lead, my Ursaluna's chipped. Like, it's not looking good. Sure, I've killed one of their Pokemon, but their other 5 are all in full health. And mine are basically all weakened. I thought, man, is Ceaseless Edge just going to ruin my whole day? Like, is that it? Did I just not put enough pressure on in the lead? Maybe so. Nonetheless, I wanted to high horsepower this. I'd brought banned high horsepower for this scenario, so I click it, and it does less than I expected. I knew it wouldn't kill, but I was expecting it to do like 80, 85. The fact that it did 70 means that this is a maximum defense Arboliva, or near max. This is max HP, max defense, incredibly physically bulky. But I didn't realize that at the time. I knew it was a bit less than I thought, when I thought maybe it's a low roll, maybe I just messed the calc up a bit. I didn't have it in my brain that this Arboliva is the most bulky Arboliva possible. And if I had noticed in the battle it could have saved me on a later move, which we'll get to. For now, I was just like, wow, that's a tanky arboliva, because High Horsepower is a strong move, Rillaboom's got a choice band. Thought it would take more, but it didn't. Hits me back with an Alluring Force, gets a crit, which is annoying, but I don't think it was game-changing there. And then I thought, what are they doing next? They can't stay in now. They really can't stay in, because I'll just kill them with another High Horsepower. They have to switch. And the switch to Thunderous looks so free. They have the ability to know that I'm choice banned. They've seen my damage on Arboliva. They can say that's choice banned, because they know they're Arboliva's EVs. So then I'm locked into ground. Why not just go Thunderous? No, you're outspeeding me, I'm choice locked. Thunderous looks really strong. So I make a heads up play. I make the best play. I was quite proud of myself for making this play. I hard read them, switch into Lantern. There goes Rillaboom, here comes Lantern, taking more spikes chip. Really frustrating. And here's Thunderous. And amazing. I built this Lantern to survive Thunderous. It's going to do its job. And then I immediately mess up. Because I thought, okay, look, I've gained the momentum. I finally have momentum in this game. I'm finally in a winning matchup. It took me 7 turns, but I've done it. How do I capitalize? What I should have done is just clicked Ice Beam and tried to get some progress. Maybe they switch in Metagross, but I can work with that. Maybe they switch in Keldeo, I can work with that. But I need to actually do some damage to them. But I just thought they're going to U-turn. The U-turn looks so free because they can't do much damage to me. So I should flip turn and then retain the momentum. And if they U-turn into Dragapult or Metagross or even Arboliva, I can flip turn it into Ursaluna and click Blood Moon. And that sounds good, right? This is a similar story to what I told myself last turn when it really worked. The problem is this turn, if I get it wrong, I'm sacrificing my winning matchup. I'm switching out of my best matchup to something worse instead of making actual progress. And when we watch what happens, they stayed in. They clicked Grass Knot, barely did anything because Assault Vest and its low base power. I flipped turn and I should have Ice Beamed. And I got a Comfey, but I'm not happy about it. I got a Comfey because the Pokemon I made to beat Thunderous is Lantern, and I just went away from Lantern. I don't want to go Sneasler. I couldn't have gone Ursaluna because of Grass Knot. Couldn't have gone Mandibuzz because of Leech-type moves. And Rillaboom loses. I get hit by spikes. I can chip it with Grassy Glide, but it's not enough. So Comfey is my best option. But it's not a great option. I would rather be Lantern. That was the whole point of Lantern. I stay in, thinking, oh well, I'll get some chip. And they Sludge Bomb me for 87% of my health. I do survive on 1%, but it was a roll. I could have just lost Comfey then and there. I just happened to get lucky and survive on 1%. I click Knock Off because I'm expecting a switch. I keep doing this thing this battle, right? I think they'll switch, and they don't. They stay in and make progress. And then I switch, instead of staying in and make progress, and it damages me. It makes me worse. Definitely something to look out for. I guess I'm overvaluing momentum and undervaluing damage. Anyway, I stay in, knock them off. It's an expert bout. I was a bit surprised. I thought it would be Boots or Specs or something, but no, expert bout. Still happy to see it gone. And now I think, well, I may as well just sack Comfey. It's not doing anything on 1% health. There's a spike up. I'm not confident I'm going to be able to get it off this game. And as long as it's there, once I switch Comfey out, it'll die on coming back in. So I'll just let it go. I'm choice locked, so I can't even click one of my priority moves. I just die. And now I can bring Lantern back in. So I just lost Comfey and took 12% spikes damage for no reason. I could have just Ice Beamed. So I try it. I Ice Beam. And this time, they switch like I thought they would. And it bounces off Keldeo. They crit me with Secret Sword, but it definitely didn't matter. Secret Sword is, because it's hitting my physical bulk, it's doing 55 plus to my health. And I'd forgotten about it because I'd been calcing Aura Sphere, but I should have been calcing Secret Sword. Just a bad sort of oversight. And this is when I thought, I'm going to lose this battle. They're just reading me, they're making good plays, really solid, really consistent. I've had a few chances, a few moments where I could have seized power, but then I've made the wrong move. They kill my Lantern, but I didn't really have a switch, because Mandibuzz was so low. I'm trying to preserve Sneasler plus Rillaboom to do some last-ditch sweep. So Lantern goes down, and now it's looking a bit brutal. I think, okay, fine, we're on death's door. It's now or never. We've got some chip on them. We've chipped Thunderous. We've chipped Keldeo. Arboliva's pretty low. They don't have a Clodsire. Let's try the Sneasler thing. It's my last shot. We're going to try the Sneasler thing. So I bring in Rillaboom, get the grassy terrain. I'm going to force Keldeo out. I click Grassy Glide into their Arboliva, and it does very little damage. 20%. I had been expecting it to two-shot. I'd been expecting a two-hit KO. But of course that was a wrong expectation. For lots of reasons. First, we know that this is a really physically bulky Arboliva. It's tankier than I was expecting. They also have leftovers and grassy terrain. There was no way it was gonna two-shot, but such is life. At this point, I'm just trying to sack Rillaboom to get Sneasler in for free. I'm locked into Grassy Glide now, so I'm just going to keep clicking it till I die with the extent of my plans. Bit more chip. Alluring Voice kills me. And here is the last moment where I could have come back for the victory. I still have my Sneasler. He's about to proc Unburden. I have Swords Dance, but they have Earth Power, which will kill me. So I can't click Swords Dance here. I have Throat Chop, which is 80 base power. I have Close Combat, which is with stab 180, but it's halved because they resist poison, which makes it 90. So Close Combat, even though it's resisted, is still stronger than Throat Chop. And I go to my calcs, and I put in Close Combat, and it says 25 to 29. And I'm calcing an Arboliva. I wonder if I can show you. Close Combat was doing 25 to 29.5 of its health. So it was a roll to kill, but a roll heavily in my favor. It was like a 75% chance-ish to kill. And I thought, okay, if I lose to a 1 in 4, then so be it. I might not win anyway, but 3 out of 4 odds against the #1 person in the league is better than I was expecting. I'll take it. But there was a problem. I wasn't fighting this Arboliva. I was fighting a 252 defense Arboliva. And that changes the calc. Now, it's 23 to 27. Remember, I need 26. So instead of it being 3/4 in my favor, it's 3/4 in my opponent's favor, because they're so bulky. I can do 26% of their health, but it's not going to be... I didn't know this at the time. I know this now. I still could have killed on the hit. The question remains, did I kill the Arboliva and seize victory from the jaws of defeat? Well, let's watch, shall we? Not quite, 25%. I was so close. Heartbroken. Remember, I thought this was a 75% chance in my favor. I was wrong, but I thought that, and I was like, no, I've been robbed. Last week it was missing the head smash. This week it's Close Combat, not killing. And now I've just lost. They can send in Thunderous. There's nothing I can do about it. I clicked Knockoff. Even if I clicked U-turn, it wouldn't have helped. They just sweep through me. That's it. End of the road. And yeah, it was an intense game. I felt good about it. I felt like I just got kind of systematically dismantled by my opponent. They just pried me apart, found my weaknesses, exploited them, and beat me. I tried my best. I even made a few good reads, but they were just better. They were just really good. A lot of respect to my opponent. I think they did everything right. It was a fun battle. I enjoyed it a lot. It was sad though, because in the first 5 weeks I won four games. So I was like in contention for like top of the pack. I was like, oh, I'm easy, I'm winning, I'm going to qualify. Now, after this week, I'm 4-3, 4 wins, 3 losses. If I lose next week as well, I might not even qualify for the playoffs. I might just be eliminated, which would be heartbreaking because I've, made like 10 hours worth of video about this silly thing. So I was feeling a bit gutted. I was like, I'm washed up. The moment uni comes back, I start to fail. But I had to remind myself, this was the best player in the league. They're just really good. I'll go back over to the final wrap-up, but thank you all for watching and for your support. And so that's it. We lost, and we lost pretty decisively. There were a few turns where I could have played better, but my opponent was just consistent, stronger, better, faster, smarter, all of the requisite adjectives you need to succeed in life. At the end of week 7, the scoreboard updates, and it looks like this. The Pyros still undefeated, 7-0, Haxorus 6-0, and then Lucario, Ursaluna, and Brambleghast at 5. Those guys, the 5, 6, and 7 winners, have guaranteed their spots in the playoffs already because there's only 1 week left. So the only people who can catch up to them are me and Heatmore, and the top 8 make it to playoffs. So that's fine. I haven't guaranteed my spot, though. If I lose next week, and Grafaiai, Roserade, and Bulbasaur win, then there's going to be a massive tiebreaker scenario. There'll be the 5 people guaranteed, and then there'll be the 5 of us with 4 points who are all fighting it out for the tiebreaker slots at the bottom. And that's based on kill differential. So how many more kills did you get than your opponents? And my kill differential is really bad this season. If it comes down to kill differential, I'm not going to make it into playoffs. So either I have to win next week, or if I lose, Grafaiai, Roserade, and Bulbasaur have to also lose into those bottom spots. Yeah, it's close. I mean, I was looking really good. If I'd won in week 6 against Ursaluna, I would have guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. If I'd won this week against Pyro, also would guarantee a spot. But now I'm on a losing streak, and with only 1 match left, there's a lot to play for. And so, join me next week when I take on Roserade, who will be my final opponent. See you in the next life, because I'm dead. I mean, Henry's dead, and I'm don't think about it too much. Goodbye.